Hi, I'm Billy Gwaltney, and this is the CYA Podcast. This show is for the physician who understands the importance of protecting everything you've worked so hard to achieve. Each week, I'll bring you tips and advice to help you cut through the clutter and misinformation and show you exactly what you need to preserve your income and way of life. If you're ready to achieve the peace of mind that only financial security can bring, let's get started. Hello, welcome to the Cover Your Assets podcast. This is your host, Billy Gwaltney, and as always, I'm grateful and excited to be with you today. Today's episode is buyer beware of a lower rate. In working with young physicians, usually in training, who are either just starting training in the middle of it or wrapping it up, discounted rates are really important, as they should be. These top specialty disability companies offer their best rates. In other words, their largest discounts to trainee physicians, and it's not close. No other occupation segment gets treated better from a discount standpoint. I do end up working with attendings that for various reasons don't get around to this in training, and pretty much always they're going to pay more. There can be a few exceptions to that, but that's rare. If whatever you buy as a trainee, if it has the proper discount, if it's done correctly, which we help our clients do, then that rate will be lower than it would have ever been had you bought it in a different situation, even at the same age. And so I want to cover that today because occasionally I'll have people reach out who are kind of rate shopping or checking out their options to be sure that they have all the information before they make a final decision, which is wise to do. And they come back to me and they say, hey, I got a rate that's $10 a month cheaper or a little bit lower. And disability coverage with the top specialty companies, and again, there are only a handful. Currently, there are 4 top tier true specialty companies. The rates are the rates. So these are set with the insurance commissioners with each state, their own file. Disability insurance is not like real estate where one broker can make a deal and you can go down the street and get a different one on a different day that's cheaper, better than the same thing that you talked about the day before. Discounts are set. Brokers have access to them. They don't have to use them. So I certainly run into a lot of situations where people are quoted higher rates because they simply don't include the discounts. But anytime a rate is lower, the rate that I quote to every client that we talk with, thousands of physicians across the country, is the absolute lowest you can get that amount of coverage with the key definitions attached to it. It's the rate I would pay for the same thing. It's the rate my brother or sister would pay for the same thing. There is no additional discount that can be added. And every single time that I can recall where someone has sent me a quote that they had that was for less money, one of 3 things was happening. One is it was simply for less coverage. They thought they were comparing apples to apples from a coverage amount standpoint, and it wasn't the same amount. So the rate was lower because it was for less coverage, and that makes sense. It's going to be cheaper if you buy less. So that was the first scenario that I've run into. The second one is that the quote that they sent me did not have the vital riders attached to it. There is a cost to the policy for having the true specialty on occupation definition of disability. There is a cost for having the enhanced residual or partial disability benefit. There's a cost usually included in the enhanced residual for a long-term recovery benefit. Those are vital features to coverage that you would want to make sure you have. If you opt into the cost of living adjustment rider, the COLA rider, that would have a cost to it. If you have a shorter elimination period of 90 days versus, say, 180 days, that's going to add to the cost. So invariably, the second scenario I've seen is that one or more of these riders that are important to have on a policy, the definitions, the things that make contract actually a top contract, were not present on the quote that they sent me. And so, of course, the rate would be lower. Those are not things you would want to cut corners on. I mean, the cost of living adjustment is debatable. You can have that or not. I certainly don't debate people on that. The elimination period is a personal decision as well. But when it comes to the true specialty on occupation definition of disability, when it comes to the enhanced residual or partial disability benefit, when it comes to the long-term recovery benefit, you absolutely must have those in any quality private on occupation disability policy. If one or more of those is removed, it's like a 3-legged stool. If you take one leg away, it's unstable and you fall over. And so that's a corny example maybe, but it's applicable here. So you would want to have those. And so if someone's getting a cheaper rate because they don't want those definitions, then we're not a good fit for working with each other anyway. But that would be the other reason when their rate has been lower is that so the first one is that it was for less coverage. The second reason is that the key definitions were not there. The third one, and perhaps a fairly common one with certain insurance companies, is that they have a graded benefit. Guardian offers this, Mass Mutual offers this, where you can start out, and Emeritus has had what's like a step rated premium, but a graded premium is where you start out lower, cheaper, for a yearly increasing cost in the coverage. And the idea behind this is that it allows you to get a top tier contract for less money while you're in training. And then the theory is that once you become an attending and you're making more money, then you can switch over to a levelized premium at that point. That is an expensive proposition. From an economic standpoint, you way overpay for the same amount of coverage compared to had you started out at a level premium and either figured out a way to pay for that or gone with a different company that has a lower rate, perhaps a larger discount, and gotten the same quality coverage for less money. Among the top tier contracts, in my experience in reading these contracts and having clients on claim, there's no one contract that's so much better than the others that it's worth paying a significant premium from a cost standpoint to obtain it. And I don't want to name names as far as insurance companies go, although Guardian and Mass Mutual have that. But the other two top tier contracts are Emeritus and Principal. All four of these are excellent contracts. Again, as we're sitting here today in the spring of 2023, as I'm recording this, things can change in the future. But from a contract standpoint, you're really not making a mistake with any of these. And depending on your specialty and your age and your gender and the state you live in and the occupation class assigned to your specialty, rates can vary dramatically from one company to another. So if you're talking to someone where they say, hey, this expensive policy is so expensive that you cannot afford it as a trainee, but it's the only one you should have. So get a graded benefit where you start off paying less and then you can convert it or switch it over to a level premium in the future. What they don't tell you is that when you switch it over, that levelized premium that you're paying is higher than it would have been had you started at the level premium to begin with. And so you trade 1 or 2 or 3 years of a lower premium in exchange for 30 years of paying something higher. From a math standpoint, it's not that pretty. It benefits the insurance company. It benefits the broker. It doesn't benefit the client, the insured. We have very few clients that have that. And I can't think of any off the top of my head. There may have been one client or two that insisted on it. But I've reached the point where if that's a requirement, then again, we're not philosophically compatible because I wouldn't pay for that. So I have a hard time having clients pay for something that I just think is a waste of economic resources when usually there is another option with one of the other top tier contracts to get you the same coverage with the same definitions at a lower rate or with a larger discount. Again, some colleagues of mine or others in this disability brokers could differ with this. It's up to you. The philosophy of the broker you work with really does matter because that's going to permeate everything you do from the time you buy the coverage, from increasing your coverage to advocating for you at time of claim. And if they've set you up in a situation where you're overpaying for something that you don't need to overpay for, that should be an indication for how they're going to handle other things in the future. So again, buyer beware of a cheaper rate. To summarize that, I would say the vast majority, the only ones I can think of, the reason that you would have less coverage than the quotes that I'm going to quote a client that is in training, that's getting the maximum trainee discounts, which we provide and show to every client, is that it's for less coverage. It doesn't have the key definitions, or it has a graded premium where you're going to pay a little bit less and you're going to greatly overpay in the future. And that's really not comparing apples to apples. If you really compare apples to apples, then the rate is the rate. There's no way to get it any less expensive. And I'm proud of that because I want to make sure that my clients know that they're getting the absolute best coverage on the planet at the absolute lowest rate that is attainable based on that company's trainee discounts. Hope you found this helpful. I have a book out called Disability Insurance for Physicians, Amazon #1 bestseller. I'm proud of that. It was in several categories, actually. Feel free to check it out. There's an ebook, audiobook to come at some point in the future to help provide a lot of the ABCs and nuts and bolts of a properly designed disability contract for physicians. Feel free to reach out to me anytime, 704-270-2376. Happy to help you in any way I can. Text me, 704-270-2376. Thank you, and until we meet again, grateful for your time.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.